All right, here we are, episode number 65 of the Oklahoma Weather Show. Believe it or not, we have been doing this now for 2 years. We did it early in January 2014 when we had Rick Smith with the National Weather Service here in Norman on. And these shows are very casual. We basically will talk about weather whenever we get the chance to talk about weather. Our schedules are so busy. But here the weather is quiet. It's the beginning of January, so we figured the whole KOCO 5 weather team here in Oklahoma City would sit down and talk, and you might be looking down at the bottom of your screen and saying, hey, there is somebody new that we haven't seen on this weather show before. We want to welcome the newest member, the KOCO 5 weather team, Mike Armstrong. Mike, he is joining us from the conference room over at KOCO 5 right now, but Mike, great to have you on here. You know, I think a lot of Oklahomans know who you are, but why don't you just talk a little bit about where you're from, how long you've been here, why you like doing this, all that fun stuff.
Okay, I'll try to keep this short. I, like most meteorologists, talk probably too much. So I grew up in Ponca City, Oklahoma, and graduated from Ponca City High School. And, you know, at that time I thought I was going to go into music for a while, went to the University of Arkansas, and then got my wits about me, came back to this interstate, went to OU and finished my meteorology degree at OU, and then was in broadcast for several years here in Oklahoma City. Got out of it for a couple years, and here I am back, and it's a great to be a part of this team. Started out, I think like most Oklahomans who get into meteorology, want to storm chase, so starting that, did that for a little while, and then really kind of worked in a different weather role for a long time, and now I'll be doing some of that again, as well as doing a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff here at KOCO as well, in just that executive weather producer role. So I'm really excited about this role because I get to kind of pour into everybody's shows. I'm hoping to really just make our weather department stronger in every way. Not that it's not strong; it's an awesome weather department already, but I'm getting the chance to kind of live out my dream of getting to chase as well. So I'm pretty pumped. This is a really, really neat opportunity to be with all of you guys. So.
Yeah, and 2016 is going to be an amazing year for us, you know, with the addition of Mike, who has spent, how much time did you spend over at KWTV? 20 years? Was it close to that?
No, it wasn't quite that long. I started there in 99. Okay. So kind of January of 99, and then let's see, August of 2013, so 14 and a half years.
That's a good amount of time, you know, and especially in this market, and a lot of times we'll talk about, you know, what it takes to be a meteorologist in Oklahoma City, because this is the most intense severe weather market in the entire world. And I have seen meteorologists that come through the city that they think it's just a stepping stone, and this city can really hurt some people's careers when it comes to longevity. You really have to love severe weather. It has to be a passion. It has to be number one. And if it's not, well, then this market can really hurt some people. So to have spent 14 and a half years here and then say, I want to get back into TV again, you know, certainly quite amazing. You know, so you said you up until 2013, you left. What were you doing in between that time?
Yeah, so I accepted a role as a membership ministry pastor at Henderson Hills Baptist Church in Edmond. So basically what I was doing is helping people who came to the church who wanted to become a member, to kind of take a next step at the church, to get plugged in and get involved. And so it was a new ministry that was starting, and so I kind of helped that get off the ground, and then that ministry is going strong, and this was just really perfect timing as far as me getting back into it. I really wasn't really expecting to, quite honestly. I was really loving what I was doing, but so I kind of have two loves, and so this opportunity came up, and I just I couldn't turn it down.
You know what's amazing is that you probably have the perfect TV schedule in which all of us are very jealous, because you get to.
Oh, don't you go there! Don't do it.
Well, I will say this: Michael is the first person in the history of this 2-year-long weather show to ever get a signal out of the conference room. It always failed.
That is true. That is very true. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to do a Google Hangout in a conference room, and it starts, and then it gets booted off, and I'm told that the security settings that we have at KOCO will like max out at a certain number of speed. So that is quite impressive. You know what's even more impressive about Mike's schedule is that he's going to be the only meteorologist that gets to see all of us in a single day. I tell you what, I hardly ever see Brad and Shelby. I see them a lot on TV, and I'll email them back and forth. But you get to see Brad and Shelby. You get to see Jonathan. You get to see all of us. That could be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. I guess we'll have to.
No, that's a great thing. I'm excited. That's awesome.
We'll have to see. We'll have to talk to you again in about 6 months and see how you feel about that. No, I'm just kidding.
All these answers will have changed. Is that what you're saying?
You know what? I tell you what. After a busy storm season, there can get a point where we're like, oh, I would love it if I did not have to see you today. If we could all take the day off, and we don't have to see each other. And oh man, yeah, for sure. Well, hey, it was
our spouses are much more attractive at that point.
Oh, for sure. It's actually we get so busy during the storm season, and a lot of us spend so much time away from our families. Brad, you're married. Shelby, you're married. We're all married here, but do your spouses ever feel like I don't know, maybe they become what they call a weather widow?
Yeah. Isn't that the term that's used, weather widows?
Well, and actually,
I know my wife and Melissa, your wife, were discussing that recently.
Yeah, they become weather widows, and Melissa heard that from Gary England's wife. A couple of years ago, we were at an event, and she said, "Well, I'm just a weather widow during the springtime, and I hardly ever get to see my husband." And so, I think we're gonna have to have we might have to do a Google Hangout where it's all of our spouses that are just talking, because I bet they could tell some stories. Oh, Brad didn't come in until midnight, and then he had to go back to work at 2 a.m. and Jonathan didn't get home till 2 a.m. and
I wonder how long it's been since we've had a full team of 5 like this, where everybody has been married too, because every one of us is married.
Yeah, that's I don't think we ever.
And has kids too, except Shelby. Where's your kid? You don't have a kid.
Well,
Yeah,
I have a dog.
That's very much a kid. That is very much a child. How is the dog doing, by the way? I love seeing the pictures of Speckles.
The dog's not near as exciting as your baby, though. The dog's fun. He's good.
Yeah. Well, how was everyone's? We'll go down the road or down the line here. Brad, Jonathan, Michael, Shelby. How was your all's holiday?
Well, I kept a low profile. The holidays, I love them, but they can be mean on you traveling around. It's one of those you leave, you come back even more exhausted sometimes. So anymore, I just love sitting around here and taking it easy. The short shifts, supposed to be anyway, with the shorter, less long newscasts. But over the holidays is also when it seems like we have the most weather and the most news, and you can be the busiest. And I'm starting to wonder why that is. I think for the news aspect, people are at home, and they get more creative, and they sometimes get into things that they shouldn't. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know, but it was busy.
It was very busy. Jonathan, I know we say holidays, although we use it loosely because you had a full schedule, man. How'd that last week of December turn out for you?
Well, I was very thankful that I actually had a Christmas Eve and Christmas Day off, and it was great. My wife and I spent time with family right here in Oklahoma, Kingfisher, and up in the Edmond area. But man, hit the ground running with that winter storm that came in, and I love weather, but it's not just the stress of the forecast, but you're doing cut-ins, and it took a lot. I think I'm still recovering from it, and so I love weather, but it's really hard. When you have these big storms. I don't know if people realize how much we're working. I mean, the stress of the forecast is one thing, but just everything else. But it was really good. It was really good. So I know a lot of people want more snow. Everyone I'm talking to, like, when are we going to get snow? And I'm like, I'd be fine if we just went straight to spring and we were done with winter. I've had my quota of ice storms. I worked both those, the one after Thanksgiving, the one after Christmas, and those are epic ice storms. So.
What do you think, Jonathan? Because you've worked them both. You've worked winter weather. You've worked severe weather. I've always felt with severe weather, you get that adrenaline going early on, and your heart rate can just stay up here the whole time. And next thing you know, you look up, you're like, oh, we've been on air for 6-7 hours, and it's kind of gone by a little bit more quickly. Whereas with winter weather, it's just a long event, and it involves a lot more news. Do you feel that winter weather can be more exhausting sometimes than severe weather days, or do you think it's opposite?
That's a hard question. That's a good question. I guess I don't know.
I don't know. I was wondering.
I think it's very natural. Severe weather is very natural. Like looking at radar and tracking storms, it's our expertise. For me, it's what I'm good at it. And I'm not trying to be egotistical, but I've learned from the best, and I work in the most intense weather market in the world. So you do it because you know what you're doing. Winter weather can be very stressful. I think it's more stressful because you're trying to nail the forecast. And is it going to be a half inch of ice, or is it going to be an inch of ice, or is it going to be an inch of ice, or an inch of rain, or an inch of ice, or a foot of snow? And that is the stress, because I am a perfectionist when it comes to forecasting. I want to nail the forecast, and there's a lot of stress there. And so you're watching and you're trying to verify, and we're trying to resolve things that a lot of the models cannot resolve, or resolve it in the wrong spot. So there's a huge stress level with that. I'll be honest, with the Christmas storm, I'm happy with my ice totals that I had, but I got it right for the wrong reason. I thought that one night that it was going to come in as bands of freezing rain. It was freezing drizzle. Oh. I've never seen that before, where we had half-inch, three-quarter-inch ice accumulations all from freezing drizzle. What? How do you get that? If I would have told any of you going into it, hey guys, we're going to have an ice storm, it's all from freezing drizzle, you'd be like, no way, we can't get freezing drizzle, an inch of ice. And it was actually, I think Oklahoma City was removed from the Christmas storm. Oklahoma City, some people on the west side lost power, there were a lot of power outages. It was probably one of the most catastrophic icing events in the region. From up in Kingfisher County, imagine every single power pole snapped, all the way down the road, everywhere. Catastrophic. We didn't have that in Oklahoma City, so we're a little removed from it. But
and you're talking about rural Oklahoma, where the speed and the recovery is it's slower, because you got these power poles that might stretch 10, 15 miles, and they're all down, and it's all rural land, and it's all mud.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think it did.
I will say this: I don't want tornadoes, because that's a loss of life. But I enjoy severe weather coverage more than I enjoy winter weather coverage.
Oh, for sure. There you go. Michael, how was your holiday?
It was good. We had some R&R time. We had family come in and visit us. So we were not traveling. And, it was one of those, Christmas times, honestly, and you guys are going to pound me for saying this probably. It was my transition time. So I had time off from where I wasn't working at the church, and I hadn't quite started here full time yet. So we had a lot of time. We got to the point to where we had serious cabin fever, though. I mean, for you guys, we have 4 kids, and I mean, you pile them in for that long. I mean, there's going to be some interesting things take place. So we'll just leave it at that.
I totally agree. Shelby, you finally got out of town. I know it took a little bit longer to get your boots running on the highway to Colorado, but your trip looked wonderful. Tell us about it.
Yeah, we had so much fun. We did Black Friday ice storm, then we did right after Christmas ice storm, and then I got away to some winter weather that I could actually enjoy. That's something that with Oklahoma, when we're the meteorologists, if big weather comes in, we don't really get to enjoy any of it because we're working. So I escaped to Colorado with my family and enjoyed some really good snow, plus the snowmobiling and R&R with the family.
And you're way down there in southern Colorado, where you're way off the beaten path, so you really get to enjoy that beauty of the Rockies. That can sometimes it's unbelievable, because not many people really kind of go down across southern Colorado.
No, not at all. We're right across the divide from Wolf Creek, so one of the snowiest places, beginning of December in North America. They had the deepest snowpack. Everyone's catching up now, but we snowmobile in and snowmobile out to our cabin. That's the only way you can get in. It's really interesting. I think that's a good word to put. It's fun though.
Well, did they lie? Did they lie about their snowfall? At ski resorts, sometimes they say, we just had a foot of snow last night. You know, their eyes are a little different. I look at Wolf Creek right now, and they're saying year-to-date snowfall 269 inches. You
Yeah,
believe it?
I don't think they're lying at all. I mean, this Christmas versus when we were there around Christmas and New Year's last year is just two completely different worlds.
Well, and you know what's really, Brad, you bring up an interesting topic because I've been looking at a lot of ski resorts lately. And now these ski resorts will put out the snow stake, you know, where they have the ruler and it's on the webcam, and you can see how much snow has fallen. And they'll say 3 inches, and I'll look at the snow stake, and it says like 1.5, 2 inches. And I'm like, did you have the ruler 1 inch into the ground when you took that report? What happened?
Yeah.
So I got
along the snowdrift.
yeah, I know, right? So, do you remember back in July when we were talking about, the first beginning of El Nino, and I was booking this ski trip out to Montana, and I was like, oh, I don't know, it's going to be, up in the north, and typically the north doesn't get as much snow. Well, we went up to Big Sky, Montana, and the snow coverage was amazing. Up across Montana, they had 3 weeks of snow every single day, but nothing more than 1 or 2 inches. But it was just consistent for 3 weeks, and so it laid down a good base. But I was, and I don't know, I doubt that the person that I'm talking about is going to be watching this show, but if she is, I love sitting next to you on the airplane. I sat next to this.
How about your wife?
I know. I was the wife went to Texas. So I on December 26th, right when the tornado warning started going up in South OKC, I was flying out from OKC to Denver, and I sat next to a 8-year-old girl on the plane who had never flown ever in her entire life, and she sat in the aisle, and it was I sat up against the window and asked if she wanted to look out the window, and she said, no, I don't want to look out the window, don't want to look out the window. And we were about 500 feet off the ground, maybe 1,000 feet off the ground, and she's got the white knuckles on the armrest, and she says, we're not going to get any higher, are we? And I said, no, we're gonna get a little bit higher. And so I was having to do a play-by-play as we were flying, and every bump that we hit, and it was pretty bumpy. I mean, those winds that came in on Saturday, especially across northern and northwestern Oklahoma, were no joke. And at about 15, 20,000 feet up in the air, they were really kind of coming right at us. So it was pretty bumpy up until we got above the clouds, which was about 30,000 feet. But it was her first plane ride, and she went from being terrified at the very beginning of the flight to absolutely loving it as we were wheels down in Denver. So, and I never really got to talk to her anymore because they were getting ready to fly out to Hawaii. But I told her she was a pro, and but I tell you what, flying that day was one of those. It was a race against the clock because you see this freezing line coming into OKC. You're thinking, when are they going to start canceling flights? And but it was nice to get up to Montana, skied up there. The coverage was wonderful, and I kept tabs of what was happening down here. That's the bad thing about being a meteorologist, is that you can never really disconnect from the weather when you go on vacation. And there are a couple times I said, put the phone down, don't look at it, but I still had to look up and look at the app. And
of course, your phone's blowing up probably from people wanting you back.
Oh, for sure.
It just thundered. Damon, where are you?
It happens. And people sending Twitter messages. Damon, how are the roads? Can I get from point A to point B? And and I have no idea. But I watched you guys, and you all did a wonderful job. And so it was nice being able to get away for a little bit of vacation, and knowing that I had the best weather team, and we're the best weather team in Oklahoma, and you guys can handle it better than anybody else. So. And now going into next week, we got kind of coming up. We're gonna be doing some stories. I'll be turning some stories next week out of Colorado at a weather conference. I wish it was a lot of play and little work, but it's gonna turn into a lot more work and very little play. So, but we've got some good topics coming up that we're gonna be working on for our severe weather special that's gonna air at the end of February, beginning of March, with our quarterly weather show. So pretty stoked about that. So
hey, check this out. Look at this snow here at Crater Lake National Park.
But Oregon?
Yes, this is the visitor center there. They've got these snow stakes here, a base or a snowpack of maybe 10 feet or
Look
so.
at the house. Look at the house on the right-hand side.
Yeah, that's the visitor center there, but it's at least buried up to the first story, and then the cars to the left.
Wow. And you can tell they get a lot of snow too, because look at that angle on the roof.
Exactly, and then the snow stakes as well that they have still sticking out a few feet to know what's what.
Man, I'm surprised.
Ironically, one of your other tabs says hot stock too, Brad. So why don't you? No, I'm just kidding.
You want to do some stuff?
There you go. There, CNN
Yeah,
money.
there we go.
Okay.
Nice. Nice. You know what though? It's amazing to me, Brad, and you spent a lot of time in Colorado. Anyone here ever been up on Trail Ridge Road in Rocky Mountain National Park? Jonathan, you're giving a thumbs up. Have you ever seen the stakes that they have up there just to mark out where the road is? I mean, I bet they're at least a good story, 2 stories high. Just so everyone knows, I guess, so the snowplows know where the road is, and not to plow the tundra. So, Shelby, you ever been up to Rocky Mountain National Park?
I don't know for sure. We did a lot of Jeep trips before we actually started going to a specific place in Colorado, and we would just drive the entire time. We went a lot of places, and I was always confused about exactly where we were.
You didn't have a Garmin up. You didn't have your iPhone looking down at the little blue dot wondering where exactly you were. You just said,
No.
Mom, Dad, take us on the road, and I'll go wherever you guys go, huh?
Yeah, just enjoying the scenery.
Have you driven the old Fall River Road?
Yes. As a matter of fact, part of it got washed out from the floods, but that was that's how I used to get up to Trail Ridge Road. Go past Alluvial Fan, that dirt windy road, and
I guess I'm not real familiar. I've done it multiple times, but wasn't it like the work management program where inmates, I guess they had to clear it and shovel it all by hand.
mm-hmm.
I think if you are on the trail and you read like one of the bulkheads, like the landmarks, it talks about the history of the trail, how they made it, and how they maintained it. But yeah, wow.
Yeah, it took some pretty serious damage back during those crazy floods in Colorado a couple of years ago, and so last year when I went, it was closed past the Alluvial Fan. So, well, the next couple, oh, what's that?
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, I've been up to the Grand Lake area, right, but I didn't go further north on Trail Ridge Road, just in the Grand Lake area, and they have Lake Granby, and so there's some good hiking in that area, so. I may have lost Brad, is that?
No, I went to let the dog in, actually.
We thought we heard the dog coming in.
He would start barking, it'd be noisy.
The next couple weeks are interesting in Oklahoma. I think a lot of us now know that El Nino, full on. You know, we're in a pattern where the snowpack is pretty high out to the west. The storm pattern looks like it's favorable. Looking into February, however, February gets a little interesting because it looks like we go through a little bit of a drying period, and then things might pick back up again at the end of February. But have you all? I got a pet peeve that I want to talk about here. Did you all see the headlines coming out of California last week where it was saying El Nino makes landfall? El Nino is making landfall. El Nino Category 2 El Nino storm coming. Have you seen these
you're talking about that guy with the website.
Well, but I've seen like newspapers doing it as well. That it somehow has been deemed that El Nino is a storm and it's making landfall. And I don't know what they do in California with their news writing, but I've had to spend, I think, a little bit more time than I probably need to, saying El Nino's not a storm. It's a weather pattern. It comes and goes. Not every day is going to be, or every week is going to be an El Nino setup. You know, it's more so the long-term trend. But it popped up, and so I don't know if you all happen to see that or not. So that's a pet peeve of mine. Any of y'all have any pet peeves? Weather related?
Well, I think just generally kind of weather lends itself to a lot of experts. So like you know what I mean? Self-acclaimed experts. And I think that's one of those things.
You're saying there aren't any experts in California?
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. Yeah. No, so like you got the polar vortex, right? So vortex was the deal last year, right? And that
Yeah.
was the big deal. And now we're on to El Nino. So it's just
Well-
like anything that you can give a title to and that becomes the big thing, then there you go.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So I read some stuff where supposedly El Nino has peaked. We might flip pretty soon, and we're almost neutral now. Here's my question. What is the outlook for the spring and tornadoes? Because if you look at average El Nino, not average, not weak, not strong, or very strong, where we're at right now, during a moderate El Nino, typically the springs are below average for tornadoes, right, for Oklahoma. It's usually La Nina years, which are outbreaks. Those are the big outbreaks. But I just did some digging here.
Yeah.
And let's say 82, 83 was a really big, strong El Nino year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So spring of 83, Oklahoma tornado stats, we had 92 tornadoes that year.
And that's coming out of El Nino.
That's coming out of the very strong El Nino. 83, see, January, February, March there were 4, April there were 12, May there were 40 tornadoes in Oklahoma. And then, I guess, what did 98 do? So 97, 98, so it would be spring of 98. Was average.
Average.
I think between
Yeah, it was about
May and
average.
June there were 44 tornadoes. So
You know what's interesting though, when we look at tornado outlooks, is that it's so weird because 2013 was such a good example of how do you write a headline about the tornado season. If you're looking at it from the United States on the whole, it was very much below average, but in Oklahoma it was very much above average. So who do you talk to write that headline? Do you talk to an Oklahoman? Do you talk to a U.S. scientist? And so when we look at our tornado projections for this year, we can say below average, but then again, that's nationwide. And here in Oklahoma, it takes one big one, and it's a headline.
And then,
Well-
yeah, you're right. An average compared to what? Because 2013, 82, but 2015, 109 tornadoes in Oklahoma, which I think is the third or the fourth most ever since records have been kept. So yeah, but we had a bunch of small ones this year, fortunately.
Mm-hmm. So it's tough. But yeah, Jonathan, that's a good question. I mean, now we're getting into the point, where we have to start looking into the spring, and and each passing week as we go into February and March, we start looking at the jet stream digging down a little bit more, and does it hit us all at once with one big storm, or is it a gradual increase? I don't know.
The other thing that's tough about this too is when you try to tie something that's so big, like an El Nino or an Arctic oscillation or anything that's more of a global circulation, to something that's of smaller scale, like a tornado, it becomes challenging even in and of itself. They teach you when you're going through meteorology school about scale analysis, and you're looking at these things that are happening on different scales. So sometimes we're just looking at anything that we can get our hands on when it comes to data, but there's probably some things out there we're still not even looking at that it's impacting, these. Let's say you've got one supercell on a day that goes nuts and produces, 20 of those tornadoes that get reported in a year. Well, can you really tie that to something as big as El Nino? That's one thing I love about meteorology, is it continues to evolve as a science, and we continue to look at how different patterns impact different events and things like that. So just another fly in the ointment there.
Oh, for sure. So when do we start making our projections? What do we do at the end of February about how busy this storm season is going to be? We still got to, by the way, go back. Who documented when Oklahoma City was going to get its first inch of snow? We talked about this
Have
back.
we gotten that yet? Have we even had a first inch?
Or first reported.
Oh.
we've had first measurable snow. We haven't had our first inch yet.
Which, by the way, this kind of popped up in my mind, Jonathan, when you're talking about, what's busier, with winter weather or severe weather. It seems that nowadays we have to spend a lot more time building up to a storm, having to talk to people that like to share these model forecasts. Did anyone here happen to see that at one point Oklahoma City back building up to Christmas was supposed to get like 15 inches of snow. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes, I know. We're all shaking our head here, and it almost touched me right in the heart when a viewer emailed me and said, "Is this website legit, or should I not be listening to it?" Because it was the first time that someone reached out and said, "I see this crazy weather data coming in. It says we're supposed to get a ton of snow. I don't know anything about this weather website. Never heard of it. Damon, is it legit?" And I wish more people would do that, because it would really, really cut down on all of these, "Oh, well, you all got the forecast wrong because it only snowed 1 inch." And it's like, that's what we were calling for the whole time, but we all get lumped into these crazy model outputs that come out, from these Facebook pages and these websites. So just wanted to get that off my chest.
Part of that, Damon, part of that comes from people building a consensus. Like they look at several different things and they try to look at who forecasted the lowest and who forecasted the highest, and then they go with whatever the middle value is. And you got to always be careful doing that. That's why we always encourage you guys to be loyal, to just watch us and listen to, and then you don't run into that as much where you're trying to kind of come up with these medians or whatever, and then those don't end up being right either. So anyway.
Jonathan Condor did a very good story earlier in December. Basically said, unless it has the KOCO5 logo on the map or comes from the National Weather Service, do not trust it. So, and that was my favorite. That was my favorite takeaway from the very end of that story. So, y'all want to add anything? So, getting ready to wrap this up. Anyone want to add anything? No. Nothing.
Well, eventually, I think it'd be great one day to talk more about, once case studies come out about the Dallas tornado outbreak right after Christmas, and just what was it, 1 EF4, two or three EF3s. I don't remember all of them, but just goes back showing us that any time of the year, it doesn't have to be April, May, or June. But mid-December, Christmas time, people seem to be unaware. Like they're just going about their normal day. And a lot of people have asked a lot about that because most people were killed in their cars. Mm-hmm. And what do you do? It's going back to situational awareness. Constantly monitoring people that you trust.
Yeah.
That won't hype the forecast. That won't. When we say hype the forecast, Oklahoma weather rarely needs to be hyped. Mm-hmm. It does its own thing, and so does Texas weather.
Yeah, and
California, maybe you get bored every now and then, and so you get the Godzilla El Nino and
that was another one, Godzilla El Nino.
Yeah, Godzilla. Yeah.
That was it. Godzilla El Nino. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up unless anyone wants to add anything else. So. This has been fun.
Just glad to be a part of the team. I'll just throw that in there. This is my first show, and it's really cool to be a part of you guys. Very talented meteorologist, and for any of you watching, it's a really great team to be a part of from my standpoint. So good to be with you guys.
It's fun. So we're happy to have you here. It's the beginning of a long, wonderful new relationship.